So, tell us about your service learning project then.
Okay. So we did a project with Not's LGBT plus network, who reached out to us through David Edgley, the leader of it, reached out to us, and it's all about LGBT residents in care homes. And I'm blanking, actually. I've said this so many times that I can't quite remember how we phrased this. Basically, we looked at the lived experiences that they had, and we talked to a group of LGBT men specifically. So they were all, it was part of a group that the network hold every month, and it's called Civil Pride, and it's gay and bisexual men who are over the age of 50, 55, and we went and asked them, like, what expectations do you have about care, what concerns do you have, like, what do you want out of this project? And then we went and interviewed a care home resident and a worker who talked about what they implement and what their worries are and what their experiences with LGBT residents are. And it was very interesting, it was very eye-opening, it was a very eye-opening piece of research.
Yeah.
So what was eye-opening about it then?
The main thing for me was just the idea that not a lot of people knew what we were talking about. It was just something that no one had sort of thought about before. That was sort of the consensus that we kept getting, that no one just thought about elderly LGBT people in a sort of general way. It was mainly just the LGBT people themselves who only sort of thought about themselves.
And I think it was interesting to take things into consideration beyond our academic knowledge and our academic experience, and kind of taking into consideration the needs and expectations of a care home and links to policy, links to wider factors that we may not consider if we were doing just more of an academic essay or an academic piece, and kind of seeing how we can take that into consideration and also apply it to the level of academia that's expected of us to kind of create that intersectional kind of piece of work that not only we can use but can also be used to create a report and also be used to create something a bit more accessible for care homes, because we took into consideration their needs and how they have policy implications, they have wider things that they need to take into consideration. So it was us just looking at how we can make things more easier for them to implement and less constricting in terms of policy and the other things that they have to meet and that kind of thing.
It was also very eye-opening about how no one's really done any research about this topic. Like, in any research that has been done is either from a different country or it's specifically about care workers, so it's not about the residents at all. There's almost nothing from LGBT residents and about their fears and wants and needs and concerns. And it was it was something you said earlier about how types of knowledge and what was valuable, and how we value like academic stuff from the residents, whereas others specifically was about what the care workers think, and it was about the care homes themselves were like, well, we need resources, but we don't want, huge time wasting trainings about things. And it's like the small bits that are overlooked so much in every aspect. So things that we never considered, things that care home workers have never considered, things that LGBT people have never considered. That's what was so interesting, is that no one has taken the time to kind of think of like, right, so what do these people need, what do these people need, what's known already, what's not known, and stuff like that.
Like, a lot of the research kind of just identified the problem and said, oh well, only a certain percent of carers get training, only a certain percent of care homes have access to things, and it was identifying these problems, giving these statistics and saying this is an issue, but kind of stopping there. A lot of the research just kind of stopped at that point. So with service learning, it was an opportunity for us to kind of take that step beyond being like, okay, we're aware that this is an issue, how can we do this? Let's speak to the older LGBT plus community, let's speak to care homes, let's speak to all of the stakeholders, and find out the best way forward by speaking to everyone instead of having these individual outlooks which we as researchers have, which the Quality Care Commission would have, which an individual care home would have, just kind of bringing them all together for something that would benefit everyone instead of just something that would benefit us or something that would benefit one care home or the Not LGBT plus network. Yeah.
So have you got some examples of the recommendations that you've made, or changes that you're recommended, or maybe have even been put in place yet?
So it was a big thing that we've discovered, and this is Lily's point mainly, and it was all about how small these actions actually have to be. You don't have to do massive big actions. You've got like a massive banner and holding your own little pride parade. You don't need to do stuff like that. So one point that was made by the care worker who identified as a lesbian was that it's just about having those conversations and not using gender-based language and not having expectations on what people's lives have been. If you come into a room and you see photographs, for example, that was the big thing, like use them as conversations that are like, oh, who is this? Is this your partner? Like, how did you meet? What did you guys do? And not, you know, it's all about dignity and treating people with dignity. And a big thing that concerned the men that we spoke to in the meeting was a loss of identity, and it's just being aware that not everyone had the lived experience that you might have had. It's also little things like having LGBT recognised in your website, just saying that you accept LGBT residents or that you have these measures in place. It's having a little pride flag in your office. It's being aware that not everyone is going to have biological next of kin. They might not have kids, they might not have a spouse, that the people who visit them might not be biologically related to them. They might be found family, they might be family of friends and acquaintances and neighbours, and that if their visitors don't look like them, don't point that out, kind of thing. It's all just dignity and it's respect, and it's, you know, about not having to closet themselves for fear that they're not going to be welcome in the space.
Brilliant, gold. So can I ask, so you're doing your masters, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is that correct? So can I ask, has service learning aided your studies across the masters at all? Are you able to see links?
Yeah, massively. I've brought in, it was something that Sharon brought up in CAPS specifically, but I used it in service learning and I also used it elsewhere, is the idea of like participatory action research. And we sort of tried to implement that as best we could in our service learning, but that is also something that I kind of want to take on later on, because it seems like an but like an interesting way to sort of access research and access participants by putting them forward, like first, sort of thing. Yeah.
Something that so Molly and I obviously did the undergrad in sociology here, and a big difference I saw through the service learning after having the MA stuff is that it's just coming away from all the expectations you had of what sociology should be, and coming away from the theory and coming away from just like having all this knowledge and just actually making it accessible and making it applicable to a certain situation. Like, I've become so much more confident as a researcher because I'm not so worried about mentioning Marx and about mentioning Foucault and just like mentioning all this knowledge that I have and actually using it and using what they were talking about and knowing that, well, this relates to that, but I don't need to push that on someone who doesn't understand that and use all the jargon and stuff. That it's not dumbing it down, it's just making it accessible. And that was such a big deal, I think, especially in this project, was that we needed to not come at it from a university, we needed to come at it as a public sociologist and as someone who's just interested in this research and wants to make things better for a community. Like, we're not preaching, we're trying to help.
Yeah, I think service learning really made the public part of public sociology, our course, really made it what it was, because all of the other modules, although they were really like helped us to develop ourselves as students and academics, it is very academic based, and public sociology service learning allowed us to kind of go beyond that academia and actually see how our degrees could be used in the real world. And I think there is a lot of like an assumption that if you go into sociology, it's an academic subject, you remain in academia, you start publishing journal articles and things like that, and it doesn't have to be the way, and it necessarily shouldn't have to be the way, and it's just kind of those active things we, with the knowledge, can be doing to share that knowledge and to get those other publics involved and actually go beyond just acknowledging the problem, but what can we be doing to solve the problem and solving that problem. Yeah.
Fantastic. So can I just finish off by the most important thing you've learnt by doing service learning? So can I start?
I think very much that I don't know everything, not only about a topic, but about my own personal biases. So I came into this research thinking that everything was going to be a specific way, that these were going to be the main issues, these were going to be what people worried about, this was going to be the response level, and nothing was like that in any way. Just like, I didn't expect the responses we got. I didn't expect both the excitement from some and just the complete rejection from others. I didn't expect how much people actually knew or didn't know. Like, the types of things that people didn't know shocked me. I didn't expect the kind of worries that people had. I kind of thought they were just kind of a given, and they weren't. And it was just coming to myself as a researcher and as a person and as someone looking at this from an outsider's perspective, but also an insider's perspective, as someone who is LGBT and will be going into a care home at some point in their lives, probably, most likely. Just kind of coming to terms with that. I don't know everything, and that there's more to learn both inside the uni and outside of the uni.
Fantastic.
I think kind of similarly, I learnt just like being more critical about the knowledge that we're taking in and kind of how it's affecting wider factors, and taking the government into consideration, taking policy into consideration, taking other socioeconomic factors into consideration that you maybe would have assumed wouldn't have played a part, and that you doing service learning has kind of made me more aware of the intricacies of those kind of factors and considering them, that I don't think I would have known about if I hadn't have done it.
Brilliant.
For me, it was the sort of the lived experiences of people. Like, I haven't lived how they've lived. I haven't gone through the sort of things that they've gone through, and having someone just speaking about their own sort of their concerns, because those are concerns that have been inspired by their lives. I haven't lived that. I can't experience what they've experienced, and that was sort of like hearing people say it, and sort of them being able to talk about it. It felt like they've not really been able to talk about it before, and it was just having it from the person themselves that sort of helped more than anything, just in general in life. I think things that they've said I'll take on into my own life later on, and it's sort of like it changes you in a weird way when you sort of hear someone talking about their story and what they've gone through. You would take that into your own life later on. Yeah.
I think also, like, building on that, like, something this course has given us is like knowing the impact that we can have, like knowing that the knowledge can be useful in so many ways. Like, you have the power to like be like, well, this connects to that and this connects to that, and being able to like put all the pieces of the puzzle together to actually make a change for a community. Like, if this research does what we hope it does, and we give these resources to care homes and they actually implement some of them, even if it's only like putting a little pride flag on their website or something like that, even if something so small, knowing that that can have a real life impact to someone or a community on like a macro or a micro scale is amazing. And it means that this research and all this time and all this effort that we've put in, all those essays we've written and all those books we've read, it means something, and it's mattered, and it has done something.